All right, here we go. Coach Shay, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Glad we've finally been able to connect. I would say move to the East Coast, but and to make it easier, but no. Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so first off, I'll just say, to get it out of the way, congratulations. Outstanding performance, outstanding season. By any measure, I think it was pretty remarkable. Quite frankly, I didn't think you were going to pull it off in the final. That's my my assessment. I was like, WashU had it in the bag. That's been their season. But you guys were, fantastic. But
did you think that before or after we lost the two all-region and all-conference players in the semis? That's the bigger question.
no, I had called it. Interestingly enough, I had called it beforehand. Like I wasn't aware of the injuries and all that, and I was like, I just thought WashU was on this trajectory all season, and which is usually the telltale sign not to, because that's when they, that's when teams fall. That's generally my luck with predictions. I pick the team, and I'm like, these are the guys, and then they stumble. So, all right. So I get you won a national championship, but give me some perspective on, like, and when you're thinking about the season, the sort of the normal course of the season, how did it go? How was it for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. We knew coming into the season that we had a really good group and we could be really competitive, especially in our conference. We thought we could make the NCAA tournament this year with the group we had. We were close the year before, but just weren't quite right. Had a few injuries and a few things happen that didn't really go our way. And, we got off to a good start. We had a tie against Pacific Lutheran in the first game, and a game I thought we actually had better chances. I think we outshot them 17-4 or something. So I thought it was a game we could have won, but we played really well. And we were still missing a couple people coming back. And you could just feel something about the kind of the culture of the team. We work really hard on building a good foundation, a good culture. Off the field culture is so significant to the success on the field. So we really work on the off the field piece. And I really felt like we had a good energy off the field, and as the season went on, people really bought into their roles and were accepting of their roles, and then pushing for more when they could. But you look at that and you go, okay, we could be pretty good. Where I kind of felt like, oh wow, we might do something here is we won some games or tied some games late in the season where we didn't play really well, but we found a way in the last 5 minutes. We just had a sort of a blue collar grit to us and just a never say die mentality, and there was 3 or 4 games where we were done, right? But we found a way to win or tie the game. And you kind of figure if you can do that, you get in the playoffs, and we might be able to win a game or two there, So that's sort of where we were at, and we felt pretty good going into the playoffs. One of the biggest things was, we switched goalkeepers before the NCAA tournament. Logan, our goalkeeper, was tremendous all year. She's been our starter the last couple of years, a fifth-year senior, Division I transfer. Honestly, she was pretty banged up with a lot of nagging injuries as the season went on, and I think it sort of affected her some. And we ended up putting Kelsey Slaw, our sophomore, in for the playoffs, and she was just healthy, ready to go. And one thing I got to say is, just to show you just the mentality and the culture of the team, when I had that conversation with Logan, she was fully supportive. She was disappointed, of course, but she was fully supportive of Kelsey and wanted what was best for the team and was going to be there for her teammate. And if you look, when we win in PKs against Christopher Newport, the first person to tackle Kelsey is Logan.
Oh, that's outstanding. Being a goalkeeper, that is not easy. I could not bend my knee at the knees, and I would still be wanting to play, right? Like that. It's just I think that's just the nature of the beast. Was there a point? Was it those games, or was there a point earlier on in the season where you were just like, "There's something about this team"? Like, was there a game in particular where you were just kind of like, you didn't, and it's one of those things where you like sort of kept to yourself. You don't want to tell people because you don't want to jinx it. Like, one of those games where you just sort of like, man, we are a lot better than I think we are, or that we realize, or
Yeah, I think the Trinity win early in the season was a big one, and it kind of gave us some perspective. The crazy part was we'd gone to Texas. We're playing 3 games in 5 days, which is insane. I don't know what I was. I don't know what I was
great
thinking.
job, coach.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but it was one of those where you're looking at building your schedule. I've been on the national committee for the selection process the previous 4 years, so
Yeah.
I really have an understanding of how it works. There was an extra game there we were offered that I felt would help us, with our strength of schedule and some other factors there. So I took on the game. So we play Concordia in 110-degree heat on the turf 2 days before we play Trinity. And I mean, it's the hottest game I've ever been a part of. We went inside at halftime. I mean, we were melting out there. It was 0-0 at halftime. We had created some chances, but they actually had a breakaway the end of the first half, and we easily could have been down in the final minute of the first half 1-0, but Logan comes up big with a save. And we get into halftime, and we come out and score, I think, 3 goals in the second half and take care of the game. Then we get to Trinity, and that game's a battle. I thought a lot of the game we had the run of play, but midway through the second half, they're all over us. We sort of weathered the storm, and then we scored twice in the final minute of the game to win it. And I think that was sort of the belief factor, right? Here we beat a really good team that's been in the tournament every single year. We had just played 2 days prior in 110-degree heat on turf, and we found a way to win that game 2 days later. And I think that really was where I'm like, oh man, we could be pretty good, we could be pretty good. We actually play even better against Southwestern the next day. We win that game 2-0. Could have been, we could have probably scored a couple more, but we just played really well. And I was like, how can we play this well on, fifth day of 3 games in 100-degree plus heat? And at that point, I'm like, we've got a little something about us, right? There's a grit about it. And I think that was sort of the point where we're like, okay, we can be really good.
Yeah. Did you even? I mean, you mentioned you thought you could win the SCIAC, but did that become like all of a sudden it became, man, we are going to contend for this thing, right? At that point, were you going into the conference? Were you that confident, or you're like, man, we are going to we can really take it to everybody?
I was really confident we could win the conference. I think that part of it was, and we tied for the conference title. So I thought
Yeah.
that was definitely attainable. I thought we could get in the playoffs and win a couple games. The furthest we had been was the Sweet 16. So the internal goal of the group was, can we beat that? Can we get past the Sweet 16, right? And I'm not
Yeah.
I don't love to talk about, let's win the conference, let's win a couple games in the tournament. Let's just be the best we can be, and whatever happens, right? So we don't set goals in the sense of, let's win the conference. In the back of my mind, of course, that's what I'm thinking, right? But I could tell they really wanted to do the best any Cal Lutheran women's team has done and get past that Sweet 16, and that was really the internal goal. And I think once we got there, they were like, okay, this is bonus. We're just going to give it all we got and keep going.
That's awesome. Hey, I know your Pomona Pitzer I thought was outstanding all season as well. What's the rivalry like between the two of you? I would think, especially this year, right? I mean, you faced each other twice or 3 times in the regular season final, and then in the tournament.
Yeah, we played them in a regular season game, a conference tournament final, and the NCAA tournament. I mean, honestly, Pomona's tremendous. I mean, you look at the last, I think, 7 or 8 years of the SCIAC. It's been us and Pomona. I think we finished first twice, once tied with them, and then the other 5 times they finished first, we finished second. So we've been right there every year with them. They've got a great program. They got to the Final Four, 3 years ago? So they've done some done some great damage in the playoffs and done really well. And they had a key injury in that actually semi game that I think they would have had a chance to maybe win and get to the finals had that not happened during the game. So you look at that makes us better, right? Having a rival like that is good every year makes us better. And our conference is strong. I think people don't realize how good the West is out
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Claremont, uh,
Hmm.
Chapman, Whittier's competitive. Even Laverne, Caltech, Occidental. Occidental had a pretty strong year.
Yeah.
We have a good group, and we have
Hmm.
to every single game is a battle, and I think that makes us better when we get to these moments. We don't, you look at some of the schools, Trinity for the most part can go through their conference without a lot of trouble, right? They have a lot of
Hmm.
games on there, they win handily. We don't have any games really like that. Maybe
Hmm.
Caltech sometimes, but Caltech's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years.
Yeah. And the men's side too, like they've just really
Yeah,
remarkable. Yep.
Redlands and
Right. Yeah.
Claremont, and yeah, there's
Yeah.
some good team. Even our team's Occidental was really good. Rod did a
Yeah.
great job with the men this year, so for sure.
Um, that's actually interesting that you say that because I have this. I wrote an article for the D3Soccer.fans, the website I put together, about how I thought the West won this year, and because I was really impressed with the soccer in general from all the Western teams, and just could you comment a little bit about how difficult it is to come out of the West? I mean, I think the NCAA's are maybe it's getting better, but are sort of rigged against you guys, just the way travel budgets and all that sort of stuff happens. But yeah, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, about how hard it is to come out of the West to be the last surviving team. Basically, you end up coming through, yeah. Got to go through Texas and Colorado and then Chicago, usually, and then all the way to get to the East Coast to play in the final.
It's brutal, and part of it is a limitation on flights. So
Yeah,
we're gonna play regionally. You've got Pacific Lutheran and Puget Sound who are really good. You got
yeah,
Trinity, Mary Hardin Baylor, Hardin Simmons in
yeah.
Texas. You've got us, Pomona, Claremont, etc. out here. So these are tough, and you're gonna play those
Hmm.
teams in the first two rounds. It's
Yeah,
like it's not really the way it should be seated, but it's
yeah,
just based on finances. That's what's going to happen. So you're going to play a really, really hard game to get out of your group, to get into the Sweet 16. So that's
yeah.
why it's been so hard. I mean, in
Hmm.
some years they'll send a random team in. They sent Emory out here one year. Um, I mean they've done. Carleton came out this year who had a really good year. So I mean
Yeah,
they'll send teams out to join us, and all those teams are good. And it's
yeah,
like no matter what we do, we're going to have a battle to get um, out of the West. I think the benefit this year was we didn't have to travel far. I mean, our first two games were an hour,
yeah.
15 minutes from us, so that helped a little bit. We stayed down there, which is something we don't normally do, but that was
Hmm.
nice. We know the field, we know the locker rooms, we know the
Yeah,
area. That helps. So I think that helped us some. But yeah, it's brutal. Then we had to go to Virginia twice. We didn't go once.
yeah.
We went twice. So imagine
that's
going across
that's
the
true.
country.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
go across the country twice in 3 weeks, and come back for
yeah,
Thanksgiving, and that's about it. So
yeah,
no, it was pretty remarkable. But the West is brutal,
yeah,
and it doesn't get enough respect. But I think hopefully, us winning will help build the respect of the West.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I was on both sides of the men's and women's. I was just really impressed with the quality of the game that was going on. Um, it, I actually just said I actually did a randomized drawing on the men's side where I just all the teams that qualified I just sort of picked out of the hat and just trying to see if what would happen and see what it would look like, and it would. It, in the ideal world, that's what would happen, right? Like, you can do all the others. You can seed the teams. You can do whatever you want for who hosts, but pulling out of the hat, it's the only way to sort of really equalize it. Because I do think you guys go through like a bottleneck, right? Like all these good teams come together, you play in the NCAA's, and only one can survive, right? And that happened
Yeah.
to that happened to be you. Talk to me about that Christopher Newport game. I had watched that. I'd like to get your thoughts on that one.
I think, a couple things happened. They had to play overtime the day before. The new overtime
Hmm.
rules make you play out the overtime. They scored
Yeah,
early in the overtime. And 2 years ago they would have been done and resting,
yeah,
right? They
yeah,
had to play
yeah.
out the 20. We played really well against Hardin Simmons. Only scored one, but again, I thought we had most of the run of play in that game and had played really well. Then, we knew going to Christopher Newport, they haven't lost a game in a couple of years. Number one team in the country. Jamie does a great job. They play great
Yeah.
soccer. We knew it would be a good soccer game. Um, we got, peppered the first 10 minutes. I mean, they were all over us. We saved one off the goal line. Kind of weathered the storm, and they didn't score. And I thought we gained some momentum at the end of the first half. We got into our possession a little bit, got a rhythm in the game, had a couple good chances late in the first half. We came into halftime feeling way better than we did at the start of the game, with a little bit of confidence going in. But then they score like 3 minutes into the second half. So we're sort of chasing the game a little bit. Then, we talked about the goalkeeper situation. One of the decisions I had made was I wasn't going to have Logan be on the sideline if our season
Hmm.
ended. So I actually inserted Logan into the game with
Hmm.
10 minutes left in regulation. We ended up scoring to tie it in the final 3 minutes off a set piece. We'd gone with, obviously pushing some numbers forward, playing more direct. We started to
Hmm.
create corners. We've been pretty good on our set pieces this year. A little fortunate there on how we scored, but we were able to score there to tie the game. And then I felt like they were gassed in overtime. They had played overtime the game
Day
before.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that gave us a lot of momentum. So I thought we had some good chances, although they had a really good chance to end regulation. They had a good chance early in the overtime. But, I thought we had good confidence. We played with confidence in the overtime. We got to PKs. We had, obviously, um, we felt pretty good about it. We'd practiced for weeks on our PKs, to be honest with you, and every single day. And we were so bad when we first started. I thought if we go to PKs, we're out of the tournament in that game. And we just kept getting better at it.
Yeah.
And we found the right mix a couple times. I mean, we had to do it a couple times, right? So
Yeah.
we found the right mix and changed a couple players in the second time, obviously in the semi, but did a great job. And Kelsey was just great in the PKs,
Hmm.
just great.
Yeah.
Um,
And now you've won, like you said, that's your first trip out east, and then you fly back east for the semis against Tufts, who I thought was very good. Again, another team that I was just really impressed with. Not maybe so much through the season, but I think they weather like you guys. If you can weather through the NESCAC for them, you come out just so much stronger. And then in the tournament, I thought they looked fantastic. Um, what was that game like coming back? You guys just you got past the Sweet 16, you lead eight, and here you are in the semis facing like I said, a really good Tufts team. What was that experience like for you?
yeah, I thought we played great in the first half of that game. Got the goal. We're playing really well. Everything was going the way we wanted to go. They're a really good team. They they're very similar to us, I think, in a lot of ways. You look at their
Mm.
path, everything that they went through. So I think it was perfect matchup. Then Avery West goes out late in the first half, who's our all-region right back. Then we lose in the second half. We lose Adrian Maroney, our center mid, who's an all-region center mid, and then we lose Savannah Durr, our center back, who's an all-conference center back. So now we're playing with players that have played, but not significantly, and certainly not in those moments, right?
Yeah.
So we had to weather the storm. They were all over us to end that
Yeah.
game. They scored. They
Yeah.
scored late on the set piece. It was a great shot, and they were all over us. I thought we gained momentum in overtime. I decided in overtime that I was just going to put some fresh players in up top. We were going to go a little bit more direct to sort of weather the storm because they had been
Yeah.
all over us. And, lo and behold, we hit the crossbar and hit one just
Yeah.
wide. And I thought that gave us some, we came off after the first overtime. We're like, we can win this game. We
Yeah.
can win this game. So I think that, again, the momentum piece going into PKs, people I don't know if they undervalue that, but it does make a
Yeah.
difference psyche-wise.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It does. And I think we just had great momentum after the overtimes. Like we felt bummed we hadn't won, right? We had the two
Mm.
best chances in overtime and we hadn't won the game, but they're like, hey, we got this. Kelsey had done a great job the day before. We knew we had some different shooters coming in. The freshman Hannah Swan, her PK is a master class of a PK. And then, she ends up playing 82 minutes in the finals. I don't think she had
Yeah.
played more than 30 minutes in a game all year. She played every
Wow.
game almost, but she hadn't
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
significant minutes. So, again, just great momentum, did a great job in the PKs, and just super proud of them. Super proud of the players that went in that hadn't played at all, that just said, hey, we're
Yeah.
going to make a difference in the game in the overtime period. So,
Yeah.
it all worked out.
Yeah. Lesser teams can't handle that, right? Like I think there's a lot of factors in going to winning a national championship, but I think it comes down to people that you could pull off the bench to fill in roles, because I do think by the time November rolls around, everybody to one degree or another is carrying something, right? Like just heavy legs or, muscle pulls, hip point, you name it. And I think a deep bench, when you're able to do that, that's a huge lift, which is credit to you, right? Like that you end up having the bench and the players who can come off and fill in those key roles in spite of not having played much or as much during the regular season.
Yeah. So, couple factors, obviously. Eden Quiros going from center mid to center back and having the background that she had played center back at the Division I level helped us. Although I don't think she's a center back. She's great at center back, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's her best position, but she was her best position for the end of the Tufts game in the final for sure.
Yeah.
She was incredible.
Never would have known. Never.
No,
You watch. You never would have
right,
known. Like, oh, she's
would have never,
yeah,
right, and the fact that she had done it for 4 years, she's been an all-conference player at D1. She knew
yeah,
exactly what to do. That was an easy solution. Hannah Sawan coming in as a freshman, she comes from a good soccer family. Her sister played at Portland, is going to Alabama, I think, for her 5th year, so she's got a good soccer background. And she just stepped in, confidence could be, and played. And then Maddie Fahey, who's a girl that had player for us that had subbed in the center back and some in the outside back for us all year, had played pretty consistent minutes. She played great in the last couple of games. So I think having some of that experience, earlier in the year helped her in this situation, but she did an incredible job. And then just all the players that had to step in and play just a few minutes here and there to kind of weather some
yeah.
storms.
Yeah.
Super proud.
What? Not. What in your mind? What was the final like? What were you going into in that game? Were you just kind of like, hey, let's just go and play, or were you? I mean, I always wonder about that. Like, how much
Yeah,
tactical thinking did you do into that game? At some point, it's like, yeah, you just got to let the chips fall where they may, right?
we definitely, talked about, had some tactical adjustments for how to defend them. They had lost one of their best attacking players in the semi as
Yeah.
well. So that we lost 3, they lost 1, but their 1 was really big. Our 3 were
Hmm.
really big. Avery West is the defensive player of
Yeah.
our conference.
Yeah.
So, so it was big, but it was sort of, to me, that was sort of then became a wash, right? It was our left-sided player against our right back, both out.
Yeah.
So it sort of,
Yeah.
leveled out. But we made some adjustments, but, we weren't going to drastically change anything or how we defended. We tweaked within our system how we were going to defend them that day. We had beat them the year before at our place, and
Hmm.
2-1, I think it was a score in a game. We scored in the final 2 minutes of the game to beat them. So I think our players it was this confidence, believe it or not. It was a
Yeah.
confidence because they had done it the year before that this is a winnable game for us. We're not
Hmm.
afraid of the game. I think that was a
Yeah.
big piece. And then it was an attitude of, this is great. This is bonus.
Yeah.
We didn't have
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
I think we were super loose, believe it or not.
Hmm.
I started a freshman at outside back to start the game. She did a really good job, but she was under a ton of pressure.
Hmm.
And at that point, we made a couple adjustments, put some more experienced players in, and I think it settled the game, and we got some momentum, and we started to play a bit. And again, I thought we created some great chances, especially in the counter in the first half. And then, of course, Bella Veljacic's goal was
Yeah.
one for
Stellar.
the ages. Yeah, one for the ages.
Stellar. I'm
One
gonna
over.
see if you have the clip. Do you have a clip of it that you could send
Of
me? Because
course.
I will totally post it here because that
Oh
was
man,
a
that that
banger of a goal.
that clip is epic. That clip is legendary, epic. Whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
I've got that clip for sure. We've got that
Yeah.
clip everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's one I'll remember forever, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it
for a
was stellar.
stellar.
And I think if that thing is down, if that ball is down even an inch, I think the WashU keeper might get her fingertips on it. She made a spectacular effort for that ball.
She's
Yeah.
incredible, by the way,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and, and I got to talk to her a little bit in the hotel over the weekend, and when we were there,
Mhm.
she's a great kid, and
Yeah.
just sat behind her at the convention,
Mhm.
getting her All America award.
Yeah.
So
Well deserved. I
well
like her a
deserved.
lot. Yeah.
No, I literally talked to her while we're sitting there waiting for people to
Mhm.
get called up, and
Yeah.
I in some ways you feel bad because she made such a good play on the ball, but the shot
Yeah.
was just incredible, and
I mean,
it worked out. So um, I'm happy it did.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we're good, but
yeah.
no, I think, and then we just hung on.
Yeah.
I never. They had a couple set pieces, but I
I
never
don't
thought
think they ever were dangerous. I don't know if
dangerous.
dangerous is like I never thought they got to your goal easily, which is a
Yeah,
big deal.
yeah,
Like if it's too easy, they'll get something. But
yeah.
I thought they struggled in that final third.
Final third. I think
Yeah,
they. I think you read the game perfectly.
yeah,
They couldn't get the weight of the pass, the timing of the
no,
cross. There was,
yeah,
you know, that was
yeah,
the challenge. But I thought we defended great, so I think that was
yeah.
part of it.
And then I thought what you did really well, um, which I think really threw them off, right? Because I don't think they were ever in that sort of situation during the season. I thought they dominated. They reminded me a little bit of that year, Christopher Newport 2 years ago, 2 years
Hmm.
ago, when they just sort of dominated. Like they were just tough. And Johns Hopkins last year, how just they
Um,
were just so good. Like you just couldn't. But you guys defended really well. But I thought your transition to go on the attack was flawless at times. Like you were so quick to get the ball forward in the right spots that I
mhm,
thought they were always scrambling to get back,
mhm.
and I thought that imbalance was huge for you guys. Again, because I think it makes them all cautious for a bunch of reasons. But
I think you read it perfectly. They play in a three back, so we knew
mhm,
that we could get opportunities in the counter if we could find the right passes coming out, and not be direct, but find the
yeah,
right pass on the
yeah,
ground, right, and get them in transition. We have some good athletic players up top, which helps us.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
thought, and you read it right. I thought we created when we could get the ball
Oh,
in the
oh,
right. We created some great
yeah,
chances.
yeah,
We had a great chance in the first 20 minutes that we didn't put
yeah,
away. So,
yeah,
I was really happy. I think we stuck to the game plan. We knew it was going to be a game where we'd counter more. We were going to absorb some of the pressure and then look to
yeah,
counter. And as they committed players forward, we thought there were some spaces we could get into,
yeah.
which we did.
I think too. What was neat to see is I think a lot of people. I don't want to say soccer people, but I think a lot of people when you say, "Oh, we countered," that's the way we were sort of set up to play. They think countering means I'm just going to clear the ball as hard as we can and go for. And I thought that was the not. I think that's what they were expecting you to do, and it was so not what you were doing. I don't remember. I'm sorry, the players so many I can't remember names, but I don't know if it was your right mid or your right wing would drop back into this space in between their three backs and then their midfielders.
Yep.
And every time you would get a ball to her on the ground and she would turn and lightning, like just go. And I thought that was like, oh my, you can't stop it.
No, and that was sort of, that was sort of the plan. If you have good defensive shape, right? If we get in a good defensive shape and we can win the ball and get the first pass connected, we've got a chance to be good in transition. People call it counter. I'd say it's more transition, right?
Yeah.
But and I think modern soccer, you have to be great in transition. That is such a big piece of the game these days, and I think that's one of the areas we're strong in. We can build from the goalkeeper and play beautiful soccer, but we can also play in transition as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think teams are, like, hey, what are they going to do today, or how are they going to play today? I think we can be good in both. You read the game perfectly. That sums up pretty much how we created a ton of our attack.
Yeah, and it did. It just, like I said, I kept waiting for them to respond, and I just think like it's something that they weren't accustomed to doing. And the fact that you weren't making everything a 50-50 ball to compete with just made it all the more difficult for them, because I think they're more, I want to say they're more speaking about WashU like a coach, but like I got the sense that they would be much more comfortable if you had to compete with them physically than if you had to compete with them on the ground. And
I agree.
That's just my perception, but
no, and I think that's something that the West, because our weather's so good and our fields are so nice, we do play a lot on the ground. So it's a little bit different than some of the colder weather areas. So I think we all get them. Christopher Newport is one of the back east teams that definitely plays on the ground, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Which, by the way, I think helped us, right, in some ways.
Yeah.
It was something we were accustomed to playing against.
Yeah.
It wasn't an anomaly. We actually can struggle sometimes against the, maybe more direct or teams in the tournament.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and that's interesting that you say that about the West, as I do notice, again, field quality and the weather and all that kind of stuff plays into the hand to play the ball on the ground. I just think there's a lot more of a tradition out West of, ball movement and possession than out East. And I think one of the knocks that you always hear about teams in the West that never win when they come out East, or don't win or struggle, is that they can't compete physically. And I'm like, I'm of the mind, like, if you own the ball, you're good enough to own the ball. The physical part,
less of a factor.
It's less of a fact. Exactly. So you just got to be really good at that. And I thought you guys were, again, among many. I really like Pomona Pitzer and Trinity, and on both sides, both men and women. I just thought, wow,
and we were sort of Paul said we're a nice mix. We also could play the blue collar game in the sense of the 50-50s and the battles. I thought, we had a grit about us. That made a huge difference in a couple of those games.
Yeah. All right, so I have to ask you, you hoist the trophy. How many ticker tape parades have you been? You don't do ticker tape parades out West.
Not parades, but being honored. We've been honored probably 6 times so far. We've got 2 more things coming up. One next week, one the end of the month. Maybe that's the end of them. Every day something pops up. I didn't realize how busy, this would create my life to be after the fact. I think that was probably the thing I've learned the most from this. This is probably the 4th or 5th podcast I've been on too. So
wow! What? I'm mad now.
No, you're good.
You're first. Come on.
No, you're good. You're good. So it's been pretty busy, but it's awesome. And the crazy part is we haven't been able to train yet out here because our field is under. The rain, because of all the water. our field is being redone over the winter break. We're getting a brand new turf surface on our stadium field.
Uh-huh.
And the rain has wreaked havoc on the project. And we 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 have one other grass. We have a grass field on campus, but it doesn't have lights, and we train normally under the lights. So their school schedules are set up to
Right.
practice late. So we're actually going to go out on the grass under portable lights starting next week until this project gets done. So
Wow.
we've seen each other quite a bit on these get-togethers, but we haven't been out in the field yet. So and this is the first year we have these 24 days. We should have more
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and we haven't seen each other yet. So we're going to see him on Monday, and
Hmm.
looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Hey, I got to ask, like, how this is something I'm genuinely curious about because it's not something I get to see very often. Like, how how much of your inbox blown up after you win the national championship with everybody being like, "I want to come to Cal Lutheran and play soccer because I'm good and you're good."
A ton, way more than normal. I mean, and then a lot of the ones that are you get the emails like, "Hey, now that you've won it, you're not going to forget about me." Basically, they didn't say it like that, but it's like, hopefully I'm still in the cards, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you got a little bit of that going on. Yeah, definitely. Almost every email starts with congratulations on winning, and then our inbox has been we haven't been able to keep up to be
yeah.
really honest. I think that piece of it it's a good thing, and it's going to help
Yeah.
us.
Oh no, totally. Yeah.
We love our class for next year. We got a couple transfers at the semester, one D1 transfer from Boise State. So
Wow.
um, we're in a good spot. Winning something like that. Now that I've done there's a lot of luck involved. There's a lot of
Yeah.
everything having to line up. Can we be really good again? Yes, but the season took a toll. We had a bunch of injuries. We had 4 ACL tears throughout the year. We're generally a team that doesn't get any. Most of which were most of which were contact ones. We had one
Hmm.
non-contact one, but a lot of that has been is going to be the recovery period. So if somebody asked me looking into next year, I'm a little worried we could have a slow start. We'll be good, but
Hmm.
we could have a slow
Hmm.
start out of the gates with a lot of people coming back from surgery and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But the roster makeup and talent is good. The core is back for the most part. So
Wow.
and I think they now know. I talked a little bit about the culture at the beginning. We do a lot of off the field stuff.
Hmm.
Team building, and people think team building is like playing fun games. No, it's about building authentic relationships amongst your
Yeah.
players and coaches, and
Hmm.
we do a ton of that. And I think they now know what that feels like to be perfect, to be right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So whether we can get it right or perfect again, I don't know. It's been really good a
Yeah.
lot of years that I've been here, but this year it was perfect. And so,
Yeah.
can we get it as close to perfect next year? We'll see. I think
Yeah.
so because I think two of the three leaders, um, captains are back. We have a leadership council, so all those people except for the
Hmm.
seniors are back. So I think they know what it feels like. So hopefully we
Hmm.
can kind of keep building that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that you say that it was perfect because that's I always look at the characteristics of the teams that do win it, and there is a quality of perfection that they just go through in the season, and like I said, perfection. Even if you have the injuries, that you're able to adjust and you have the players to fit in the right spots and play the right level that you need, right? Like, and I think that's a big deal. But yeah, I'm always amazed that like you go through a season like that, you make it to the national championship. I can't believe they players are like able to walk and celebrate after all that that whole time, right? And it's just such a wear on the body. But
And the mental
our,
way.
oh, and the mental, totally the time, and there are days you're just tired, and you just I just want to go crawl on a couch somewhere. But um, All right, couple more questions for you, and let you get on with your day. Hopefully, it's not raining cats and dogs out there.
It's beautiful. It's
No.
beautiful today. If I could show you outside, it's 57 degrees, which is
Tough
cold.
living.
It's
Tough.
57, which is cold for Southern California, but it is sunny and beautiful outside,
Yeah.
and we have green grass right now, so we're good.
No. Yeah. All right. New Jersey does not have that, although it is a nice day, I will say. What? So for the spring, like, what do you do? What do you focus in on? You're obviously dealing still with the injuries and all that, but what do you? I mean, do you have a focus for it, or are you almost like, hey, can we just get back to enjoying the game and as we have in the past, or?
I think because of a lot of the injuries and people missing, we've got 2 kids studying abroad.
Mm-hmm.
So our numbers are good enough to train for sure. We've got about 20, but we're a little lighter than sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you want to be. So we're gonna work on how to individually get better a lot. Can we
Mm-hmm.
get individual players to work on the individual player development a little bit in the spring? We're going to play we get 1 play date, and we're going to play 2 games in that 1
Mm-hmm.
play date against Sonoma State and Cal State Bakersfield, so a D2 and a D1. We like to do that. I think it's good for us. It pushes
Mm-hmm.
us to be competitive. And I think that'll be good. And that's right at the end, so in mid-April. So that'll give us some time to prepare for that a little bit as we get closer. But
Mm-hmm.
really, it's just to get back together and enjoy each other and continue to grow and get better as a team.
Yeah. Yeah, I put a lot of weight in the spring, but it's got to be the right. You got to hit it right. Like if you told me you were going to do wind sprints and work on fitness, I think I'd be like, Coach, I think you might have a rough fall. It's like literally that's what can happen from
No, I
miles
totally
and
agree.
yeah,
The spring is a chance for players to improve, where you
yeah,
don't get a lot of time in the fall to work on the technical side of the ball,
yeah,
right? So we get a lot of
yeah,
time to work on the technical side in the spring, and we want to play in a good style of soccer, and they need that. So it'll
yeah.
be good for us.
Very good, Coach. Um, Really do appreciate you taking the time today. This was fantastic. Like I said, I'm glad we were able to connect finally. It was my first interview ever was with Ruben Burke, who's the men's coach for Connecticut College coach when they had won the national championship, and I think my second or third was Jamie Gunderson at Christopher Newport. And so every year I'm like, I got to get the national champion. So I'm glad we were able to connect. This was fantastic, and wish you well, wish your team well, and hey, enjoy the ticker tape parades while you can, because they don't happen every year, right?
Yeah, I keep telling people we're going to live this high as long as we can. That's that's
Yeah,
that's that's the
that's
goal,
it.
and until reality sets in, we're gonna.
Yeah.
And with practice being pushed back, I feel like I'm living the high a little bit longer until it goes back to practice. So we're gonna keep trying. But
Yeah, yeah.
no,
You
we
can
really.
pat yourself on the back a little, for a few
Yeah.
more days, right? That's awesome.
I just want to say, thank you so much for thinking of us and having us, and this has been fun. Totally enjoyed it, and thanks again.
No, thank you. All right, Coach.
All right, have a good one.
Excellent.